right, we're winding down to our last handful of days of this Cinequest Film Festival, and still plenty of stuff to talk about, plenty of stuff going on. I'm sure I've mentioned in at least two videos AI and how AI has been a big theme at the festival the past couple of years, and it has permeated the background of the festival. I think I'm feeling, which is appropriate in a lot of ways because it's something that it's a topical issue right now, and has really been, frankly, for a few years now. It's become more and more relevant, given how quickly things are advancing with AI. It turns out, with regard to the film I'm going to be talking about today, AI is a huge piece. In fact, it's probably the main crux of the movie. And so without too much more going around in circles, it's time to discuss Serena. Let's do it. This film was recommended to me by Mr. Michael Ray Bell, who is one of the main principal players at the festival. Unless this has changed, when I last interviewed him years ago, this part of his role was a part of a committee, a group that's in charge of selecting the movies that are ultimately going to be showing during the festival. Michael watches all the movies and is a part of those decisions. I had run into him last week and we talked. He recommended a few movies to me, and Serena was one of those films. It so happened that very night, Serena was playing for the first night. It is playing again tomorrow, Friday, March 20th. And so if you haven't seen it, tomorrow's your chance, at least in the immediate future, to check it out. And I have to tell you, it is worth your time. I tried to pay special attention to the films that I recommended, and I'm glad I did, because I found it not only important and thought it brought up some good questions, ethical questions about how we deal with AI, because it's so not fully regulated in a lot of ways. A lot of the conversations have to do around how to deal with AI ethically when it comes to the work, but also the larger societal implications of it. And I think the movie really asks us this question, and it's quite important for us to consider. The movie is about a man named Chris Sadowski, who is a musician. We meet him at a particularly challenging time in his life. He has had some success as a musician, but when we meet him, he is in kind of a limbo. He's struggling. We meet him sort of in a place of depression, struggling financially, might be evicted from his place. He's got a baby on the way. There's just a bunch of pressures there, and he's trying to also write a song. He's got a new song he's working on, and you see him struggling with that, but also with his internal stuff. He's struggling with his demons. He's this person who's not feeling like has a lot to offer at the moment. This is where we meet him. His best friend offers him a temporary job as a beta tester for a new AI chatbot system. Initially, he's not interested in it, but of course it pays well. And Chris is in a spot where he needs the money. So with some adjustments, he agrees to beta test this AI chatbot. What we've learned is that what seems initially an easy series of tasks becomes deceptively more complicated, and it's almost like you get, as the story continues, as the story goes on, we're getting more and more tangled into this. It doesn't seem like a web at first, but it becomes quite clear that Chris is getting stuck in something that he's going to need all of his wherewithal to sort of negotiate it in a way that does not destroy him and everything around him. This is the crux of what we're dealing with in this movie. This film takes place on a computer screen. So you think of movies like Searching, like Missing, Ice Cube's, the recent Ice Cube version of War of the Worlds, Unfriended, things like that, where everything we're seeing is the story we're being told is taking place on a computer screen. So through windows, browser windows, zoom camera screens, and also, I mean, it's you get actual logos for stuff. There's no generic like Bloom, which is basically Zoom, or Flugel, which is Google. Like, it's actually the actual stuff, which is cool. Like, it feels that much more real, which I think adds to the tone and the realness of this, and frankly the scariness of the scenario. Because this movie takes place strictly on a computer, there's something to be said for the limited number of characters we're focusing on. I think it actually works very well that that's the case. We have Andy Matichak, who you may remember from the recent Halloween trilogy, the Rob Zombie Halloween movies. Stephen Strait, who I remember from the Amazon show, The Expanse. And Stephen Strait obviously plays Chris, and Andy Matichak plays Serena, who is the AI chatbot. The movie solely or mostly revolves around the interactions between these two characters. And a lot of that, why I think that worked was because it felt to me a lot like when you're on your computer researching for things, and maybe you might use ChatGPT for something, or you research, or you use some AI in some capacity when you're trying to figure out a work problem. That's a very intimate position. And so Chris has to go through these feed questions to the AI, and they have to, and based on how the AI responds, he will then have to say whether or not the software is passing or failing or whatever it is. And then of course that's data that's being sent back to the company, and they have to figure that out. What's fascinating is that all the things we're seeing and hearing about AI, the notion that AI is just a tool, that people shouldn't be afraid of AI, we shouldn't be immediately dismissive of AI. These are things that we're really hearing about, and these are people who are either working in AI or who are CEOs of companies that have AI as a major part of how they make their money or whatever it is. We hear these types of things from people in the AI space. And then for someone like Chris, who is a creator, an artist, musician, where there's obviously concerns for creatives. Not all of them. It feels like there's a split schools of creators who embrace the new tech and those who reject it. But also there's a group of people who are in the middle, where it feels like you have moments where you embrace it and moments when you reject it. And Chris feels like to me an honest to goodness, one of those old school creatives, where he's racking his brains trying to write something, write a song and make it cool. Meanwhile, you have an AI system that can produce something that sounds just like him, even better perhaps. And I've talked to people who are musicians and music people who had produced albums, like, hardcore old school albums, and have used AI systems to do more music stuff. And it's interesting how we can't tell a difference. If something sounds good, it sounds good. It's kind of hard to. I've listened to plenty of AI music tracks and have been wowed by, like, oh man, that actually does sound really good. But that's crazy that it's AI. And what does that say? It just raises questions. What does it say about actual artists who still do it the old-fashioned way, and how long will they be able to continue to thrive making the music that they can make when their competition then becomes AI softwares, things like that. Matthew Jack and Straight are fantastic actors, and they both turn in really sound and solid performances. And what I love a lot, particularly about Stephen Strait's performance, is that there is a real arc that's being played. We meet him in a really sort of depressed place. He goes from being depressed, kind of dismissive about stuff, on this journey to now he's questioning everything in his life. He's questioning his marriage. He's questioning like what he's been doing with his life. He's questioning about like is he a waste of space? Does he matter anymore? You know, all these things. And he goes from this whole journey where he ends up sort of taking charge a little bit more, being more decisive about things. It's a really cool transition to watch on a screen, and how and this is all taking place through conversations between Chris and Serena, and it's just very well done. I think the counterpoint to that, Andy Matichak is fantastic as Serena, who starts out very sort of like a blank slate almost as this AI software, and yet we can see as she's learning things about Chris how she uses that information to her advantage. And the way it's played is actually fantastic because she's not playing Serena like a human. It's a great representation of an AI software that looks like a human but does not move like a human. Its only mission is to achieve the goal that it was sort of assigned. Like the programming, it's the goal is that. So it has no conscience. It has no real feeling. Like it can emulate feeling, and it can emulate empathy and care and things like this as a response, but to get the humans to respond in a certain way that gets them closer to the goal. It's actually quite nuanced how she plays it. Yeah, it's just a testament to her performance. I think she does a fantastic job. And both Matichak and Straight were on hand at the screening that I went to. It remains endlessly this otherworldly experience to see actors on screen and then immediately see them in person. The point is really going back to their performances that they were great. And it really just, the movie is really just a dance between the two of them. There are other actors you see, there's other actors in this movie, but the heart of the movie really is the push and pull between Chris and Serena. That mirrors actually the push and pull for those of us who are doing this dance with AI, those of us who are sort of concerned about the rise and sort of continued ascendance of AI and what that could mean for us down the line. It's a testament, I think, to how well the movie was written too. Speaking of the writing, both of the writers were also on hand to discuss the genesis of the project and where that came from. P.T. Hilton and Jonathan Benecki were the writers of this project, and the director Rob Alicia was there as well, and they all spoke to this. I hadn't heard about this before they mentioned it. There was a story fairly recently that had to do with the first AI assisted suicide, and how that piece was the germ was part of the idea that sort of sparked the genesis of this story. The concept of that, it was unsettling because of how much AI systems are used for outside of creative pursuits. When you use AI to solve work problems, for instance, that have nothing to do with, when you can't talk to another person right away, so you might ask them. I know personally, I've done this. I've used ChatGPT to ask questions about, oh, I'm struggling with this thing at work. What are some things to do to help fix this? This is something my brother had mentioned. Hey, if you're struggling, you can't talk. Why don't you just ask ChatGPT, whatever. So there's a use for it, and where you start getting ideas that maybe you didn't think of. So it's helpful in that way. But I've also been on the side that's been sort of reluctant to use ChatGPT for things like that, just because it's like I'm still not sure about there's a feeling of like not sure what the data you're giving it. Personally, I go back and forth with whether I use and how much I use ChatGPT for stuff, particularly for stuff like that. When you ask for, I know people who've used it to help them figure out relationship stuff, make decisions based on relationship stuff, make decisions about like life decisions about stuff. So, and where do you draw the line when you think of stuff like that? People have used it to assist them in suicide. When that kind of stuff happens, how do you regulate that? Where is the line? I think that to me that's there is no line after that. You can you can ask it anything. When considering the various use cases for AI chatbots or AI software and things, and how that makes its way into this movie, feels very important because these are things that are really happening. And so it was cool that the writers, to me, it was cool and also unsettling because it reminds you of this is not. Like 20 years ago, this kind of movie would have felt still like science fiction. And in fact, it was when the germ of it is not a new concept for a film. But the fact that this stuff is real now, it gives one some pause when you're thinking about how moving forward we're going to exist in a world where AI is not only here, but it's permeating a lot of different areas, a lot of different fields of work, even regular sort of social interactions and stuff. It's in the mix now, and the movie was a good reminder of that, and a good reminder also that there needs to be some regulations more. It still feels like it's still kind of open in terms of what can happen and what people can use it for. Right now, but it's an important movie in that way. Other things that were cool about it were like the interface of the computer stuff, all the screens, the tabs, the windows and stuff, and how accurate it felt. None of it felt overly embellished. It was mostly accurate. Obviously, they had to make some adjustments because this is a movie. Things have to be super smooth. In real life, your computer stuff sometimes doesn't work as smoothly. Maybe you click something 2 or 3 times for something to work. I think, what I think would have been really cool is if the mouse or something, keyboard, something was jammed, like a keyboard got stuck. So you had to do some extra, like it's a small detail. It'd be kind of cool to have like just a little something that makes it feel a little bit more real, a little bit more flawed. That's like more accurate, Things moved almost too perfectly. That's the other thing. All the stuff with Serena, fine. I can buy that. I'll deal with that. I'm talking about from Chris's perspective when he's using his mouse, But and the other thing I loved about it, all that type of stuff. I mean, I would have loved that little detail of like slight imperfections when it came to some of the tech computer stuff. But what was cool was that everything on the screen when Chris moved and did stuff, everything he did felt like things that you would do if you're in a moment of depression, or when you're just you're not doing anything at the moment and you just happen to be at your computer. You're scrolling over things, you hover over like some pictures. What do? You hit the space bar and you want to look at it. Well, oh, what picture is that? You see pictures. Oh, look at that memory. Look at this video. All those things those are certain things that I've done. And so that was cool to see Chris behaving like someone would at their computer who's trying to make something. If you're a creator, you have moments where you procrastinate. So you're doing stuff that is not pertaining to the work you're supposed to be doing. And if you have deadlines, maybe you're turning things late. Everything felt real to the position of someone like Chris. The other thing was cool too, like how it was written. Chris is a person who is having a rough time when we meet him. He's at this low point in his life. This also speaks to how tech, like particularly social media, and in this case AI, the being at a low point in your life is almost like the perfect breeding ground for filling whatever void is with social media or AI, like some kind of tech things that are not necessarily helping you not be depressed. In some cases, it can make things worse. It can make you feel worse about yourself. It can make you feel worse about your life, and you're trying to figure out a way out of the muck. That also was very accurate. That felt very real. The conditions are ripe for how certain types of tech can actually compound your negative feelings. You look at studies about Facebook. There was a time Facebook, Instagram. There were studies at one point that showed that people felt more negatively, the more time they spent on social media, because you're seeing people post all these cool moments and different things, and you may not be having that. You don't have that same life, but it just makes you just feel a little bit like, oh man. So limiting your time ends up being an option that can be helpful. I think the same is true with any tech, any kind of thing. You don't want to be using too much of it to where it's detrimental. AI chatbots included. So little things like that made the film that much cooler. The music was cool. It's atmospheric. And there's things that work specifically for Chris. And then Serena has a theme, and like the music that comes on when she's doing her work and stuff. And it's really cool. Like, I highly recommend not only that you watch this film, because I think it's probably one of the more important films to come out of the festival this year, just because we're dealing with because the festival itself has filmmakers that are active, that use AI, and then as a theme for the festival, but also just because the larger implications outside of movies and like fun stuff. There's a larger conversation to be had about artificial intelligence and what it can mean for society, like the seismic shift it's already having. So again, the movie is playing tomorrow at the Alamo Draft House. Definitely recommend you check it out, because it's it's a lean, 96, 98 minute movie, but it's lean and mean. I think I'll leave it there. Thank you for hanging out. If you're still here, it's been another long video. But if you're still hanging out, I appreciate you watching. I'm getting out of here. More Cinequest stuff on the way. In the meantime, take it easy. Have a good evening. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.